Okay, we good to go? Okay. All right, welcome. I guess I'm the unofficial host. I am Diane Dutkovich. I teach physics here on the Prescott campus, and we have some amazing opportunities here. We have 4 people from NASA visiting. Our main speaker will be Steve Schmidt. He's the Assistant Director of NASA's Armstrong Flight Research Center. We also have Carley Reta, who is a higher education project specialist. We have Maria Caballero, who's an aerospace engineer, and we even have Yvonne Gibbs, who's a webmaster and journalist, visiting us as well. And I want to just take a little moment. They've indulged me here because a lot of people don't know other people, and we have a campus over at CTech, and we have people here from CTech. We have the Prescott campus, and not everybody knows the other group. So again, I'm physics and astronomy on the Prescott campus. I'd like to introduce Liz Peters. She does robotics over in CTech. If you're interested in that, please talk to her. Some of the other faculty we have our great leader, Scott Farnsworth. Can you stand up? Geology, I see Beth Boyd. Just please stand up. For math, we have Jerry Hamilton. Dave Gorman should be, there's Dave Gorman. If you're interested in some of these courses as well, and you want to know more about them, please grab the appropriate faculty member. I also want to put in a plug. Our speakers are going to be talking about opportunities to, work on rovers and things like that. And some of it will be involved with Mars rovers. And it just happens that tonight, the Prescott Astronomy Club is hosting their 3rd Thursday talk in the Prescott Downtown Library at 6 o'clock. And the title is 300 Years of Space Exploration. What have we learned about Earth's neighbor, Mars? And again, our 3 universities are very involved in this. And the speaker will be Dr. Christopher Edwards from NAU. So after you build the rover and send it there, what do you do with it? Okay? So there are a lot of opportunities, and please nab the appropriate people afterwards. And without further ado, I will hand it over to Steve Schmidt.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're happy to be here, and here's an opportunity for us to give to you, show you what we do, and also the opportunities if you're interested in coming to work for NASA. We'll give you some opportunities to see that, and the 2 ladies over here will explain that steps and process on how to do that. So getting started here, all of us are pretty much from small towns, and you'll see that. Had an opportunity, probably didn't think we had an opportunity to work for NASA, but part of our outreach and education's under me of what I have, and I have a director of education, and these folks work in that office. And Arizona is part of our district that we do the outreach to, so this is trying to get more Arizona participation into NASA, so here's an opportunity to do that. So I'll start out here. You've all probably seen this meatball, the logo that we have, we call it a meatball. And it says NASA, it's probably the 2nd most recognized logo in the world next to Coca-Cola. So given that, does anybody know what NASA stands for, what the acronym stands for? Does anybody know what that stands for? Yes. Bingo. Right on. National Aeronautics and Space Administration. It's interesting that we use a lot of acronyms. Government loves to use acronyms. And half of us don't know what the acronym says or what it is. We know what it is, but we don't know what it says. So we just love to use acronyms. So when you see this logo, what comes to mind to you? Space. Okay, space. Okay. So probably things, if you remember Space Shuttle, the International Space Station, the rovers on Mars, Hubble Telescope, Chandra is another one. James Webb Telescope is in the process of being built, it's supposed to launch in 2018. So that is just one minor facet of what NASA does. That's what everybody hears about, but it's not the only thing that we do. We also do science. So we do earth science, and we also do science that explores up and out. So for like earth science, for example, we have airplanes, airborne science. You'll see some of that. We fly over the Arctic. We'll fly over wetlands. We look at volcanoes. We fly over the top of hurricanes to figure out how all that works. We fly over fault lines for earthquakes. We've even flown over the Gulf spill to look to map the BP oil spill in the Gulf. And we fly all over the world and looking at Earth and on how it works, from anywhere from picking up the carbon monoxide and dioxide that comes across from China. We do that locally. So there's a lot of earth science we do. We also have an airborne astronomy, called SOFIA. It's an 8-foot diameter infrared telescope that we fly in the back of a 747. And you'll see a picture of that. And the back of it opens up. There's like a huge garage door that opens up on the back of the airplane. Usually holes in airplanes are not synonymous of something that flies. Usually a hole in an airplane is usually pretty disastrous, but this was purposely done, and it flies very well. So we also do aeronautics. That's where we're from. Is one of the centers we have is from aeronautics. So we do everything from doing high-speed research, low-speed, high-altitude, and you'll see some of the aircraft that are involved in that. But some of the technologies that we've developed, you've probably seen the little winglets on the tips of the wings of airlines and business jets. We developed that. You've probably even seen things we even get involved in where you see 18-wheel trucks going down the freeway and you see those air dams and the aerodynamic devices on that. We developed that. Okay? So how many of you use cordless tools? Quite a few, right? NASA developed cordless tools. Wasn't Black & Decker, wasn't Skill, wasn't Craftsman. NASA developed that, and that was for space walks for the astronauts because kind of a long extension cord that kind of reached down here. So we developed that. You probably have in your glasses, sunglasses, the UV coating that's on those glasses to protect your eyes from the UV. NASA developed that. That was for the astronauts, for their shield to protect them from the UV rays from the sun when they're walking around in space. So that's just a few of the things that we get involved with, but we do a very poor job of explaining to the public of all of the technologies that are developed for space that you use in your everyday life. And I'm sure most of you have used a microwave, right? So NASA developed microwaves. So you didn't know that. You figured maybe Ken Moore did, or Amana, or somebody else. Now, that technology was developed by us and then passed on to companies, and those companies took that technology and turned it into a product that we sell. Okay? So that's just to give you an idea. These are where the NASA centers and NASA locations are across the United States. Where we're from is number 2, the Armstrong Flight Research Center. That is where we're from. We're out in the Mojave Desert. It's a lot warmer than it is here in Prescott. It's more along the lines of triple digits, so if you like Phoenix, you'll like that. And but we have 88 shades of brown where we're at. So one of the things we have is we're very remote, gives us an opportunity to do things that you can't do anywhere else in the country. But on the other hand, we're remote and it's really tough to get to. So there's pros and cons to that. So we're considered an aeronautics center. The other centers up at Ames is also an aeronautics center. You got JPL. JPL is really not a NASA center, although it's treated as one. It is an FFRDC, which is a federally funded research and development center. And it's a NASA facility, but it is managed by Caltech. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting thing. But a lot of you have heard Johnson Space Center, Houston, we have a problem. So you're probably familiar with that. Kennedy is where we do most of our launches. Headquarters up here in number 5. We just say it's headquarters, but yeah, they help. They're here to help. So, but space centers like Goddard, Langley's an aeronautics center. So we have centers that do space, some that do science, some of them do aeronautics, and then we also have a mission directorate that does technology development. So of those 4 major elements that NASA has, our center touches all 4 of those, and we're the only center that does that. The other ones are very focused on the missions that they do. This is who our namesake is after, Neil A. Armstrong, first man on the moon. He started his career out where we work. As you can see him standing in front of the X-15, one of the fastest rocket planes in the world, 6.7 Mach. Is what it flew. But this is where he started his career. I had an opportunity, fortunately, to work with Neil on various occasions. Neil is one of the nicest, most humble individuals you'd ever run across. Just very, very nice guy. And the thing is he'd like to come out to where we were at, and we changed the name here a couple years ago to him. It was Hugh L. Dryden. Hugh L. Dryden was the director of NACA, which is a precursor of NASA. And we named it after Neil. Neil used to like to come out there, and you'd want to talk to him. Well, so tell us about your moon flight. How was it to be on the moon? And you'd want to talk to him. He didn't want to talk about the moon. He wanted to talk about his flight test and the things he did out there. He wasn't interested in talking about the moon, which is very interesting. So it's a very, very interesting individual, smart guy. He was an engineer and a pilot. So I'm going to show you a little video here of some of the things that we do at the center where we work. So it's kind of a long, it doesn't touch everything, and it doesn't touch what's coming down into the future. So.
Point in time, all now. The past, we can only remember. The future, we can only surmise.
NAFA must be like NACA in the qualities of strength and character that make an organization great.
While we are changing our name, the work we do remains consistent. We fly, we explore, we measure, we reveal, and we discover the overlooked and unexpected for the benefit of the nation and for the benefit of humankind.
We're going to ride off into sunrise.
Left 33. F5 run complete. Copy 8.95 shown here, run complete.
High-speed research is hopefully at one point in time going to allow supersonic flight commercially over the U.S. and throughout the world.
5 miles northbound, Navajo, 8,500. November 02 Sierra, traffic 2 o'clock.
Visual about 3.2.
Spot on.
Initial climb is monitor verified guidance. Passing through 10,000.
Perfect. You guys made history today. No one has ever proven that vortices go anywhere except at the wing tip.
The fiber optic system tells us how much the wing is bending in real time. This technology eventually should be applied to completely flexible wings. That's the future.
The new flaps have promised to be lighter, more efficient, quieter, more like a bird, morph without any use of hinges and joints and things like that.
We're going to continue ahead here for about another couple miles. Check out the airplane before it makes it.
Steady heading sights, let's do the left first. We'll hold it for 10 seconds and try to get about half field. Pitch stability is good, rolling yaw. That's pretty stable right there. Runway's clear.
All of the airborne science aircraft from ER-2 to C-20 to DC-8 to Global Hawk, they all play an important role.
You guys ready? Ready. What are our temperatures? 34, 33, 38.
I've got rising terrain, 12 o'clock, 7 miles.
Calico.
Yep, start climbing here.
Mesa, Winslow, and Rockwell.
So much just about the process of science, and that in itself is something you can bring back to the classroom.
Inflatable systems allow us to build bigger heat shields to decelerate larger masses so that we can support the systems that are required for human space exploration.
Tower NASA UAS Airborne U.S. work area surface to 2,000 feet. Release!
Green light, parachute here.
Pretty cool stuff, huh? Yeah, you too could be involved in that. So we need people like you to be able to help us get there. It's going to be folks like you that are going to help continue this message and continue this forward. It's not going to be old poops like me that are going to be gone. You're going to support me. So that's why I'm here. So anyway, that's some of the things that we touch. You can see the space elements, the airborne and science, the astrophysics, the astronomy aspects of it, as well as the aeronautics. So those are some of the things that we have, and if you're involved in those types of things, you also get an opportunity to be able to fly in some of those airplanes if you get involved with them. So that's pretty cool stuff. So a little bit of background about me real quick is grew up in a small town. Did a lot of things. I worked in the farm fields, a lot of alfalfa. I remember walking from grade school to home through the alfalfa fields, moved irrigation, drove tractor, picked berries. I did all that type of stuff. Went to the high school, got out of there, went to junior college. And that was probably one of the most and the better things that I ever got out of that. I have a little more on that. Then I went on to Cal State Fresno, got my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and then I got a master's in public administration from Syracuse. First job when I came out of school was I got to work on some of these programs when I was at Edwards Air Force Base. I worked in DOD as a civil servant, and these are just a few of the programs that I worked on. The very first one I worked on was A-10. Probably seen that in the Gulf War. Very interesting airplane, slow flying airplane, but very maneuverable. But we used to joke and say it's the only airplane in the inventory that'll take a trailing edge bird strike. So it's just instead of running into it, the bird runs into the back of it. So anyway, and one of the other positive things that I had that I always wanted to fly. And so I pushed that, and I got to fly in most of these airplanes. So in pushing the envelope to its extreme, and hopefully you would push it to the end. That isn't the way they'd operate it, but we'd take it to the extreme, and hopefully the airplane didn't break because that ran into catastrophic events. But that's what we did out there. Then I moved on to Rockwell International. The first program I worked on was Space Shuttle, and I was working on building Space Shuttle Discovery. So that was the first program I was on. Then I moved over to the B-1 bomber program, and then I moved over to the X-31. X-31 was an interesting program. It was Navy, DARPA, Germany, and NASA were involved in that. It was a high angle of attack type aircraft. We built two of them. We flew over 500 flights in the two airplanes. It was to do vector thrust. It would look like it would be in a flat spin coming out of the sky in a flat, and then you could rotate it around like a helicopter and move it around. So it was very interesting. The one of the airplanes unfortunately did crash. It was on its very last flight, coming back to base, and it crashed. And the pilot was able to eject out of it. He was injured, but he ejected out of it. But that's what we do, is we push the technology and the envelopes where nobody else has been and trying to find out what that is. It's a risky business, but it's fun. So, you know, racing cars is a risky business, but it's fun too. So then I came to work for NASA. Worked on these various programs that are here. Probably the funnest one of the funnest ones I had was the SR-71, which was a reconnaissance. It's retired now. It was a reconnaissance airplane built initially by the CIA and then put over to the Air Force. It would fly its envelope at 80,000 feet at over Mach 3, which was 2,000 miles an hour. So people would ask me, he said, well, how long would the airplane stay in the air? And you go, hour and a half. They go, geez, that's not very long for an airplane to stay in the air. But I can fly from Los Angeles to New York in 56 minutes. I can fly from New York to London in an hour and 56. So I only have to be in the air for an hour and a half. So you could fly from here, go to Seattle, have a nice seafood lunch, and come back and be in time for dinner. So that would give you an idea. So it was a fun airplane. Then I went to Washington, D.C. It's where all the pulse of the country is at, and one of several things I got to do, and one was very sobering, but on the other hand, you knew it was for a better cause, was a Columbia Acts Investigation Board down in here. And what you see here in these streaks, those are the main engines from the shuttle coming in a re-entry, because when the vehicle came in, it flipped over backward because tail end first, because that's where all the weight and the mass was at, moving in that direction. You learn that from your physics. And we recovered about 38% of the vehicle, and it was spread over 2,600 miles in Texas and Louisiana. And unfortunately, we lost all 7 crew members as a result of it, and one of the crew members he and I happened to go to the same school. So it meant quite a bit to me. So that I did that for 10 months. Then I was asked to set up a President's Commission on the new direction of where the country is going to go in space exploration. So I was asked to set up the President's Commission. So one of the positive things I got out of that was, after the report was done, it took us 6 months, a lot of public hearings. The chair of that was a former Secretary of the Air Force, Pete Aldridge. And one of the other commissioners that you might be aware of is Neil Tyson deGrasse. You may have seen him on TV. He was one of the commissioners that was on that, and also was Carly Fiorina, was a CEO of HP at the time. She was on there. So it's just a few of the people that made up this commission. And one of the things I got is, after the report, I got to go over to the White House, the Roosevelt Room, and hand the report to Dick Cheney. So that was one of the things I got to do. So it was kind of an interesting part of my career. So then I went back to the center where we're currently at, which was called Dryden at the time. This is just a sample of what some of the airplanes that we have fleet. This is a shuttle carrier aircraft. So when the shuttle ever landed out at Edwards or in California, we had to take it to Kennedy, and we mounted on the back side of this 747. And there were 2 of them, and one of them's at an air park out there, and then some of these are retired, and some of them are still in flight. And then over here on this left-hand side, you saw some of the aerial videos of it's a U-2 aircraft. We call it an ER-2 to do science. This has a synthetic aperture radar that allows us to map the Earth. And DC-8, it's an old DC-8, but it's built like a tank, and it has more modifications on it than you can imagine. And our scientists sit in there and take samples, and there's ports and probes sticking out all over the airplane. And here's the 8-foot diameter telescope that fits in the back of Sophia, in the back side of that. So that's some of the activities we have. So enough about me. Let me pass it off to Ms. Gibbs, and she can tell you a little bit of her background and where she's at. Come on up here. And she can give you a different perspective.
Thank you. Good morning. What I wanted to share with you is my background is journalism, and you would think, well, so? But somebody has to tell NASA's story, and that's really most of what I do. Steve's background and mine are pretty similar. We both grew up in a small town. We both had agriculture in our background. Just basic stuff here. But what I parlayed the journalism into was more NASA related. My first job there was as a technical editor, so turning hieroglyphics into English, job security for life. I eventually moved into tech transfer, which is just fascinating. We get to see at the very beginning of the technology, the TRL levels that are, or technology readiness levels, right as the technology is being born, and see what that becomes. I eventually went into communications, and now I'm the webmaster. And it's a lot of fun. It's never the same twice. I've been there forever because it's not boring. I really, really enjoy it. And what I also want to describe to you is technology is so important to us, but there's also life beyond STEM. So if you have interests in really just about any discipline, NASA's like a business. We need every kind of discipline possible. You see, this is just a very short list of what we need there. You saw some of the spectacular photography in those videos, the videographer and the photographers. Of the 3 aerial photographers we have, 2 of them are women. So one of our videographers is a woman. But these are just a few of the categories that we have. So if STEM really isn't your thing, you might want to consider, because all of these areas have internships. There are great paid internships. Steve's going to tell you more about those, and the 2 ladies here are going to help with that. So I'm hoping you'll take a look at these and give us a try. Get on the website. You'll see me there. But thanks. I hope you give us a try.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. For those of you that didn't hear who I am, my name's Maria Caballero. I'm an aerospace engineer there at Armstrong. I've been with Armstrong for just over 16 years. Before I got to Armstrong, I worked at another NASA center called Wallops Flight Facility. They're under Goddard, and I was a rocket engineer, rocket scientist in a way. I did all the performance and analysis for the sounding rockets that Wallops flies. It doesn't matter if they flew them from the East Coast or from White Sands or from Alaska or Puerto Rico. I was the one doing the analysis and letting the scientists know if the vehicle was going to fly high enough and far enough for them to do their experiments. And one that we did that was really exciting was flying into the Aurora Borealis in Alaska. So I had to make sure that we got high enough and flew into those auroras for the scientists to measure the atmosphere. The other one that was really cool was a yearly calibration test that we did with the SOHO satellite. So we got to make sure that that satellite is calibrated, because that's measuring the activity that's going on in the sun. So anyway, that was a really fun job, and it got me the experience that I needed to eventually get a job with NASA. And so now I'm with NASA, and it's a really cool job. Since I started there in 2000, my main job is doing the UAV analysis with the UAVs, which are basically uninhabited aerial vehicles, and because they don't have a pilot on board, we got to make sure that they meet very strict requirements. We do not want to endanger the public any more than what you normally endanger yourself. So if you're just getting in a car, that's already putting yourself at danger. Even sometimes getting out of bed is, dangerous if you roll over and fall and stuff like that. But that's, danger that you're putting yourself at, and we cannot add any more to that. So I make sure that any UAV flights that we do are done safely and they meet the requirements that are set for us. So I've been doing that since I said for 2000. At one time, I was the only analyst in, I want to say, the nation, because we were the ones that started UAV flights there. Primarily, it's for research at Armstrong. And then over the years, I've taught other centers how to do it, people from the Air Force and the Navy, and we put together a class at the headquarters level. So now anybody that wants to learn how UAVs are analyzed for the risk to the public, they go to that. So they're using my techniques for that. And for the last 9-10 months, I've been doing a detail with the Office of Education. So I primarily do K through 12 STEM outreach work. And yesterday we had a fun day with fifth graders from the Coyote Springs doing rockets. So they did an amazing job. They surpassed the expectations, and they met every requirement that we gave them, so that was really neat. So just a little bit on my background. I grew up in Wasco, which is a little town just north of Bakersfield, California. Tiny little town. We're known as the rose capital. I think we provide about 75% of the roses that are sold in the U.S. I'm a migrant kid. My parents migrated when I was 2 years old. I was born in Mexico. My mom didn't know that I needed to be in school because in Mexico the requirements are not as strict as here. So for the first 9 years, I just did nothing but play and have fun. So then one neighbor told my mom, you need to have your kid in school. So I was 9 years old when I started school. I didn't know any English or anything at all. And at that time, there were no bilingual programs. So Spanish was not allowed in the school. And there was one little kid that knew Spanish that was assigned to help me, but he treated me really badly and told me I was dumb and stupid for not knowing English. So that really hurt my little kid feelings. So I used to buy a lot of Scholastic books, and they came with a little LP record, and you would play it, and it would read the story to you, and it would ring a little bell at the time that was, for you to turn the page. So I memorized the words, and I did that during the summers and any break that I had. So by the time the third year started, I started school in second grade. I had to skip a couple of grades because I was too old, so they didn't want to put me in kindergarten at nine years old. So I started in second grade. By the time I hit third grade, I was already speaking English, and I was one of the honors students. And I graduated with honors from high school, went into California State University in Bakersfield to the honors program. Did 3 years there. I wanted to go into engineering from the very beginning because I've always been fascinated with airplanes. As a little kid, I would stare up at the sky and look at the contrails and thought of how cool it would be to be up there in the sky. So engineering was always something that I wanted to go into, and I did introduction to engineering. Bakersfield didn't have the engineering program, so I got my math and sciences there, and then I transferred over to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and got my bachelor's degree, which is a great school. And right now, my two sons, Leo and Eddie, they're 21 and 23. They're students there. Leo's about to graduate with a master's program in biomedical engineering, and Eddie, my young one, he has a physics major, started the fourth year, and is minoring also in math and astronomy. So, so like I said, at Wallops, I did the sounding rocket analysis, so that was a very cool thing, and I got a little ahead of myself. Armstrong, I've been doing the UAV analysis, and also aside from doing the UAV analysis and the K through 12 STEM outreach work, I also did about 2 years of mishap investigation. So any time that we have incident where someone gets hurt or vehicles get damaged or something happens, we need to investigate and see what's going on and recommend corrective actions. So I did that for about 2 years, and then got a little bit into system safety, which involves looking at what are the risks to the people working the projects and risks to the project and the mission itself. So we identify those things, like something just as simple, like even with a small UAV, we're doing a student project where it involves the kids putting together quadcopters. So they have propellers, so we have to look at, okay, what's the probability of the kids turning on the power and being too close to the propellers and getting cut. So that's kind of the stuff, even if it seems silly, it's stuff that we have to look at because you may get hurt. So we have to have mitigations for that. It's a pretty cool job. So these are some of my babies since I started there. These are some of the UAVs I have done the analysis for, and as you can see, they can range anywhere from as big as a Global Hawk to tiny little things. So it's been a very exciting job. Some of these vehicles, especially like Helios, it broke several world records. I got to go to Hawaii right off from the beginning. When I got hired, I was given that project, and I got to go to Hawaii twice to be the independent safety person when they were doing their flight termination testing. So I got to be there when they attempted the 100,000 flight that they wanted to do. So somewhere in the records, my name's among the team members. So that was a cool job. And that's a little bit about me. And now Carly.
What's up, y'all? So I'm the newest one, so I don't have any cool projects or anything like that, but I'm gonna hopefully try and tell you how to do those things. So yeah, my name's Carley Reta. I'm an education specialist, so I work with the Office of Education. I grew up in the same town as Steve did, small town. I got my high school diploma, and then I went to the community college and got my associates in psychology. And then I studied abroad for a little bit, and then I came back and I went to Cal State Northridge. So no STEM, no technical background. I'm actually a psych major, so there's that. NASA needs those too, I guess, right? Because it seems like some of the engineers are a little crazy. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm kind of in the middle right now, and some of you might be there soon, but I want to get my master's, but I'm not entirely sure. In human factors, it's a really cool field, but it's kind of limited. So human factors is like designing, like interaction design. So we'll see how that goes. So before I jump into this, I graduated in the spring, and I got an internship with NASA over the summer. And then this is some of the stuff that the internship has allowed me to do. When I first got out there, I had an opportunity to shadow a user design research experiment. So just like Maria was saying, I got to look at some of the UAVs up at Ames. It was really cool, actually. They paid for the entire trip up there. They paid for us to go up there for a really nice suite that was kind of probably excessive, you know, and they give you a stipend with food for while you're up there. And I just got to watch them do basically, so if the pilot's not in the cockpit, right, on the plane, they're looking at it like, say I'm looking at this computer flying a plane. So they're trying to design something that's safe, that says, okay, there's aircraft coming, you're on the freeway, you see a car there, but if you're not in the car, how do you see that, right? So stuff like that is what I got to shadow, and it was cool because, you know, I know since I just graduated, you're in the classroom, you know, you'll have hands-on activities, but, you know, they're not really like real world, like I know, okay, this is like, you know what I mean, actually happening right now. So it was cool to see that I was watching people be a part of things that are actually implemented in the FAA like today. Some of them were in the news recently, so it was pretty neat. So with my internship, it wasn't the funnest in terms of I didn't get to like build stuff because I don't know how to build the stuff. So I got to watch the kids do it, and I reported basically all that information. So I helped in doing updates to headquarters about what we did. So all the interns, and I'll go through this later on, but all the interns are funded. So NASA wants to know, we're not giving, you know, all these internships, all these money. What are you guys doing? Just hanging out? No. So I have to let them know that we're actually doing stuff. I was a part of Prandtl, which you kind of saw in the video. This is this is Prandtl M. So at some point in the near future, we want to fly that to Mars. And so Mars doesn't have, again, I'm not technical, so I'll just give you what I know. You know, Mars doesn't have GPS, right? So we have to fly something up there that will basically map out the topography, and that's what we want to use, and we want to toss it down in a CubeSat. So we had to figure out how to, first of all, make something that small fly. Again, no vertical tails. If you look up Al Bowers, he's huge on that. He was in the video. He's right here too. And he's our chief scientist at Armstrong. So working with him directly, or I guess I was indirect, but it was really neat. And yeah, so NASA's really famous for acronyms. Prandtl, he's actually a guy. Some of you might know physics and engineering, but for us it was preliminary research aerodynamic designed to land on Mars. So that's Prandtl. And then I did some of the lead role for NCAS. If you guys didn't pick up any flyers, they're up here, so afterwards you can get them, and I'll get into that later as well. But that was some of the stuff in the internship, and it was really cool because not having a technical background and watching like engineering happening, I was like, okay, like this is actually really neat. I can't do math, so it's better to watch, I guess, and it's probably safer. So advantage, okay, I'm just winging these ones now. Okay, Steve will take these.
So, thank you very much. As you can see, we have a very diverse background. What I want to do is I'm going to go through these relatively quick because I need them to talk to you about how to work for NASA. That's really what's important. What's in it for you? Not. It's great to have all these stories, but let's get to the crux of how you can come work for us. But coming to school at a junior college is great. At least it was for me, and I believe for the other ones too, because you get some one-on-one instruction that you're not going to get in a larger campus. I remember one of the students that when I was a kid, they went to UCLA and they sat in a class, 1,200 students. So, and they had monitors up there, and to be able to do it. So be able to have that one-on-one instruction, that closeness, and to be able to do that, this is probably one of the better educations that you're going to get in the initial phases of that, and then finishing up your 4-year degree somewhere else. But there are a lot of benefits for being at a junior college. But again, you're in ultimate control of that. You're responsible and accountable for your own education. You know, the counselors and everything are here to help you, and so are the instructors and your professors. But you need to make sure that you're on the right path. So again, you know, this is to give you some life learning experiences that eventually that you'll be able to use into the future. But again, you're going to meet some relations. You're going to work. It's a microcosm of what the real world is like. Working in groups, having to have work with team members, and there's pros and cons. You find those who produce, those that don't, and your grade's reflected because somebody else didn't produce. That is the way it is in the real world too. So again, you need things are going to get tough, but you need to stay with it. So it's real important because that's the way the real world really works, and I believe the junior college helps you develop those skills. But I won't go into some of these, but it's one of these things where these were just some of the things that you need to be aware of as you go through your career, and they have the written rules and the unwritten rules. The unwritten rules are the ones that you need to pay attention to because they're not written down for a reason. So, you know, but one of the things is I think is key is a life balance, work-life balance. Okay, it was interesting. I might your instructors might not like it, but I'll tell you what a professor told me once. Is he said the best students, and it might help relieve some of the stress on some of you guys. So the best students have a GPA between 2.7 and 3.2. And you go, what does that mean? How'd you figure that one out? Well, he said, you know, if you have a 4.0 student, it means you're very smart. It's not true in all cases. You're very smart, very technical, very book smart. But he said those individuals don't really have a social life. Okay? And those below a 2.7 sees a social life in school as an unnecessary evil to be able to go out and party. So if you're between a 2.7 and a 3.2, you understand the importance of school, but you also have a social life. So that kind of stuck with me. I was a 3.05 student, so I fit in the middle of that. So I agreed with it. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but anyway, that was his put, and it just kind of stuck with me in that respect. But one of the things real quick, probably of all of these, is an attitude. Okay, when I go to hire folks, there's a couple things I look at. Is you can be the smartest kid in the room, but if you got a bad attitude, I'm not going to hire you. Because I can't teach attitude, but I can give you all the training, technical training you can stand to do your work. But if you got a great attitude, that's what I want, because you have the passion, the desire, the drive to learn and want to do this. But if you got a bad attitude, you become kind of a cancer to my organization. I'm not going to have that. The other thing is I'm also looking for people, I'll use the word failure, people who have failed, and how did you recover from that? I don't want somebody that's just had just a great and glorious career, and then all of a sudden they hit a failure point, and then I have to call Carly to give you psychological help. and she's not far off. Most of us aren't real stable, you know. So it's just, it's one of those things. So, you know, it just gives you an idea. And then also, as you start doing your career, be very careful about social media and what you post, because your employers or potential employers look at that stuff. So you need to be really, really careful, okay? So I'm going to pass this back on to them to tell you what and how you can get involved with us, and then you can ask them questions, because that's really what's important. So we just try to get you juiced up and excited about NASA, and then how do you do that? Okay, so I'll pass it on to one of you. You guys take it.
So there's several ways to become part of the NASA workforce, NASA family. As students, you guys have quite a few opportunities. There's the OSSI, which is basically the one-stop shopping initiative for NASA. You get to do internships and fellowships and get scholarships through that program. And there's, of course, Pathways program. And Pathways is not only for NASA, but also for other federal agencies. So that's kind of like a federal government job type thing. And then there's NCAS, which Carly's involved in right now, and that's open to community college students. And I won't go too much into that because we have another slide for that. But first, I'm going to show you a cool video.
This video was done by intern out of the center on interns. So it was done this year.
Yeah, so this was the summer that I was there, so this recent summer.
My name is Josh Peterson. I'm from Swanee, Georgia, and I go to Georgia Tech. I've been working on the F-18 behind us, and we're converting it into a flight controls test bed. Ever since I can remember, I've been fascinated with space and flight and everything that has to do with an airplane. So, I mean, really working at NASA is a dream come true.
My name's Emma Ruano. I'm from Tehachapi, California, and I'm going to Bakersfield College and majoring in industrial technology. This year, I've been working on Icana. I'm a mechanic for NASA's Icana and Q9 Reaper. I became interested in working for NASA when my mentor from both National Test Pilot School and robotics encouraged me to delve further in the aerospace industries. I got online and found the NASA internship website, and I just applied.
My name is Carter Rohr. I go to school at Cal Poly Pomona. I grew up in Tehachapi. So I specialize in cybersecurity, so I've been looking at NASA web servers. I've been looking for vulnerabilities, pen testing them, which means I try to hack them. The impact that I've made on my department is I've improved the overall IT security at Armstrong, and after I leave, I will improve the agency IT security. It's going to help a lot. It's going to protect our systems. I'm coming in as an outside hacker, trying to hack our systems. If I'm not doing this, somebody else will.
My name is Kira Hedrick. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, but I grew up all on the East Coast, and I go to Harvard University. I've always been interested in things NASA does. When I was little, it was mostly the high-profile stuff, like going to the moon. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more interested in aircraft and stuff like that. When I was looking for an internship over the summer, NASA seemed like a place that I would try to go.
My name is Lauren Newton. I'm from Corona, California, and I attend the University of California, Berkeley. What I've really enjoyed about my experience here at NASA is pretty much, the entire experience as a whole. The forward-thinking, the cutting-edge environment that we're working in, the various people that I get to work with, not just the professionals, but also the brilliant interns that I get to work with, the groundbreaking research. It's been a dream come true.
The internship program at NASA Armstrong Flight Research Center is focused on bringing students into NASA Armstrong and providing them with a hands-on opportunity to pursue their career. The majority of our students are in the STEM fields. We also bring students in from everything from graphics, photography, mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering,
all across our center. We've been trying to broaden our program and touch as many areas as we can.
It's always fascinating to me the things they figure out on their own. It would go much faster if the engineers were to interfere with the students and tell them, no, we want you to do it exactly this way. But part of this is so that the students can discover those things for themselves.
It's been an amazing experience working with the professionals here at the center. You know, this is what I aspire to do in the future. So really getting to work with people who are at the absolute top of the field. It's really mind-blowing, but it's at the same time something to be very proud of and a very humbling experience.
Well, I really like how everyone believes in their project. Even though I'm working in a project under my mentor, I am also very independent. I'm treated like a real employee here.
Most out of my time at NASA, I've enjoyed working with the other interns here and working with Oscar now, my mentors. It has been such an eye-opening experience to work on a center where this is what they do, and they have so much insight and experience. I think the people here have been my favorite part.
So my time at NASA has helped my career in various ways, and it's given me real-time experience on real situations that I'll be using for the rest of my life when I'm either working at NASA or if I'm at another company. My experience here has changed my life.
My time at NASA this summer has not only helped me choose what I want to do, but it's given me the experience that I'm going to need to work in the field that I'm going into. I'm working hands-on, side-by-side with somebody who's doing exactly what I want to do when I graduate.
Someone interested in pursuing the things that I'm doing, I would just say, go for it. It's easy to think that you can't do that or that you're not going to get chosen. But the thing is that if you're willing to put in the time to learn it, you can do anything that you want at NASA, in other careers, everywhere.
Apply as much as possible because we have everyone from a high school student to a PhD student here, and who knows what they'll see on your application.
If you want to work at NASA, I encourage you to apply. It's definitely worth the time, and it's a great experience.
So I'll go ahead and talk about Aussie. That's what we call it, One-Stop Shopping Initiative. Since I was a student not that long ago, I'll just try and hit on what you guys care about, which is how do you get in. So Aussie is going to be the platform you use to apply for internships. So there's going to be two different things we'll talk about, pathways and internships. They're two different things, so just keep that in mind. Obviously, we're going to talk about Aussie first. So in a nutshell, okay, so internships, they are paid stipends. So for my summer internship, it was 10 weeks long and $6,000 flat out. So we had kids as young as 18 to, I'm 23. So I know there's people older than me as well in there too. And just like in the video, there's internships for all kinds of opportunities, educational, psychology, engineers, physics, I mean, literally anything you can think of, IT. So basically you're going to go to the website and you'll kind of see what's on there and what maybe you are interested in. You don't necessarily need to have the background in it, but it's more so the passion that they're looking for. So if it's something that, maybe you're not going to school for, but you have a lot of, hobbies in or things like that, then check it out for sure. So eligibility requirements, the basics, basically. We need a minimum of 3.0. You need to be a U.S. citizen, and you need to be at least, enrolled in a college or university. So as long as you have those things, then you're good to go to apply. We have 3 different, basically, terms and then a year long. So fall, summer, and spring. On there is the current dates. If you go online, you'll also see it as well. So the next one coming up is to apply for for spring. So right now, if you apply, you're gonna hop in on the spring one. What's kind of cool is I ended up getting a job after. It just happened to work out that I already graduated. But there was kids who are still in school. They haven't even transferred yet. So going during the summertime when maybe they don't need to take classes. I know some of you guys need to take it, so you want to graduate on time. Summer works, but if you have the opportunity for fall or spring, go for it. And then we have the year-long one as well. Let's begin. So the application process, it's really straightforward. I'm just going to breeze through this. This is just kind of in-depth. The pamphlets go in-depth. When you go online, it's really straightforward. I mean, I'm sure we've all applied to jobs or, things of that nature, things for school. If you applied for FAFSA, you can for sure get through this. So there's that. So first of all, you have to have letters of recommendation. I'm just going to say before that you'll get to the website and you'll go on and it's going to ask for certain requirements. It's going to notify you up front that it's not complete. Your application is not complete without X, Y, and Z. So it'll tell you from the beginning what you need in order for it to be complete and to go through the system. So letters of rec is one of them. You obviously have to complete the intern application and add unique opportunities. So it's going to ask you kind of maybe things that you've done, things that you're interested in. It has a variety of questions kind of to see where you're going to fit. So we have different NASA centers. Armstrong, we had people all the way from New York. A girl I worked with, she was from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we're in Lancaster, California, so it's pretty ironic. But we take them from all over. So just because, say, you're in Arizona and maybe, JPL or Armstrong is closest to you, that's not really how it works. It's what's available, what you're interested in, and what those centers kind of do or specialize in. Skills awards and educational activities. So again, this is just, amp yourself up. Whatever you are, say as much as you can. And don't lie, but, kind of put yourself up there. You know what I mean? Because they're going to have all kinds of people looking at this. So make yourself sound good, just like in any other thing you're going to apply for. So you're going to complete the application. They're going to review it. They have mentors that are going to kind of be looking for, certain people, certain things, and so forth. So those are the people who are going to be looking at your application. And then you're going to be extended the award to, you're going to interview, and then, they'll offer you the position or not. Let's see what else. I guess this is just contact us. Honestly, you can contact me. I'll write my email on the board. It might be better. But on here, it's going to be the generic, here, type in your question and we'll send you an automated response saying we're looking at your question. So I can reply probably faster and give you a straightforward answer straight from the source. Let's see, before I go on. Also, I know a lot of people, they'll have submitted the application. You have to do it on Aussie to get the internship. But another girl, the same girl that I was speaking with that came from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, what she did was she just blew up Armstrong's email list and contacted everybody she could from, she wants to be a pre-service teacher. So she did all the Office of Education, and it just so happened that one of her emails landed on the right person's desk and they reviewed it, and then she got the internship. So she still applied, but if you want to really work at JPL or you really want to work at Johnson or wherever it may be, and this is like, that's what you want to do, like, not harass them, but get in there, you know what I mean? Put your name out there so they hear you, because the application will get you so far, but, they always tell you, call the, if you're applying for a job, call them and go in and so forth. This is the same thing, but it's harder if this isn't down the street from you, right? So just blow up emails and do what you need to do, essentially. And then with pathways, did you want to talk about pathways? Sure. Okay.
I'll just mention something before we move to pathways about the OSSI program. Basically, when you go in there, you're going to see hundreds of postings, and they're for all of the NASA centers. And you can select up to 15 that you're really interested in. Of course, you may not get chosen for that if a mentor needs someone that hasn't applied for his position that he has available, he'll go and see who's applied and select from that. But you do have an opportunity to select up to 15 positions that you're really interested in. And some of the mentors will take more than one student. Like one of our chief scientists, I think he's worked with up to 20 students at a time. So even though you just see one posting, read the description and you'll see how many students they're looking for. And like Carly said, you don't necessarily have to have the major that they tell you to do the work. My son did one internship with the Prandtl program, and he's not an aeronautical engineer, he's a biomedical engineer, but as engineers, you guys can be trainable, you learn and you know how to research. So he taught himself the basics of aeronautics, and eventually for his group, he became the historian and the technical expert. So every time they did a tech brief, he would be the one that introduced the program. So if your major's not identified, doesn't mean you can't get picked up. But I mean, it's just don't give up if that's what you want to do. So pathways, like I mentioned earlier, we're highlighting NASA jobs here, but Pathways is open to all federal agencies. So if you want to work for the Air Force or the Navy or something like that as a civil servant, this is the way to go too. This is one of the options that you have. And for this one, you can get in there in 3 different ways: as an intern while you're still in school, and GPA a little bit less than what NASA requires. Then if you're a recent graduate, and then the Presidential Management Fellowships too. So this is just another way of getting into the NASA workforce. And you go, because it is a federal posting, you have to go through usajobs.gov. So you just go in there and type in pathways or students, and the jobs will come up, and you'll get a listing of all the federal postings for students. But if you want to make it specific for NASA, then you'll just type in NASA in the keyword search. So for that one, you also have to be a U.S. citizen and be at least half-time student at one of the schools, be pursuing the math, science, engineering, and business fields, and GPA 2.9, meet the security requirements. Some of these jobs do require security background check. And you'll be working there. You have to have at least 30 semester hours completed in your undergraduate degree. And the ability to work alternating semesters throughout your graduation. With this one, OSSI is basically on an hourly rate. You get $6,000 for the weeks that you're there. With Pathways, you're actually paid a little bit more. So depending on the experience that you have, how many years or semesters of college, that kind of determines your pay. And if you're an engineering student, you get a tiny little bit more. And you get all the benefits too. As a normal employee, you get annual leave, sick leave, you get all the paid holidays, you get life insurance, and this is, I think, one of the easiest way to get transitioned into a civil servant position once you've applied one of their terms. So for this one, just go to usajobs.gov and create an account. You'll have all the tools on there to create a resume. And like I said, if you want specific pathway jobs with NASA, just do a search for NASA. And mechanical engineering, right now, this is just an example. If you want to work for NASA as a mechanical engineer in California, then you would be that specific on it. Otherwise, you just do a general search and you'll find everything that's available there. And some of them have supplemental questions, to make sure that you complete those. I don't believe the NASA one requires you to put your transcripts up front, but if you were to apply for, say, the Air Force's positions, you do have to attach your transcripts, even if it's an unofficial copy. Otherwise, the application will get kicked out, which we learned the hard way because I did that for my son, so I knew from experience. Okay, just tips. Check your application, make sure your spelling and grammars are correct. As an engineer, I'm notorious for misspelling, so I don't know what I would do without spell check. But the easiest thing for this is type your information on Word, get it checked and then copy and paste it into the system. That's the easiest way, because sometimes it doesn't check for spelling, so just do it in something else that does. And make sure that you include all your project work and classes that relate to the job application that you're applying. And like it's been mentioned before, show passion. Some of these jobs, I've heard some of the mentors mention that they don't necessarily go with the students with the highest grades. They go with who shows the most passion. And so you'll have a section where you describe what you like to do. So especially like in the model shop where we build the small UAVs like Prandtl, the pilots will look at for students that are passionate about work similar to that they do it as a hobby, that they do it on their own. That they're not just trying to get a job to get money. They're doing this because that's what they believe in. So show your passion when you fill out your application. And this is what mentors are looking for. So just experience, soft skills, and make sure your applications are completed. And that's about it on Pathway. So now we'll go into NCAS.
So I'll talk about NCAS. NCAS is actually an event that Armstrong is hosting in October. This will be my first kind of big event employed. So NCAS is something that you guys can all apply for. It's a community college type of thing. So once you've already transferred over to the university, this will no longer apply to you. So as long as you're here, kind of take note. We have it 2 times a year, so spring and fall. I believe it's center-wide. I know Johnson's kind of the hub of it, and then Armstrong has it. You'll go on the site and you'll kind of see from there. Let's see. Okay, so I'll just give an overview of it. So what you'll do is you're going to take courses online. It's geared towards STEM. So if you're not really interested in STEM, that might not be the fit for you. But I mean, check it out. It'd be something cool to get into for sure. And you get to check out the centers and what we offer and things like that. So definitely don't turn it away. But you're going to take courses online. You're going to get, a grade for that. And then there's a $30 application fee. So that's all that is as far as money goes. And then it's randomly selected. Whoever has kind of the highest scores get chosen for this. So I know for Armstrong next month, we have about 40 or so people coming in. And I think that's kind of the cap. So it doesn't matter where you're at. Like, just for an example, internships, like JPL has like 400. Armstrong has like 80s, kind of way pushing it. NCAS, it's just kind of capped out at 40. So there is eligibility requirements. Again, kind of the typical things: U.S. citizen, high school grad, at least 18. You're actually in a community college, so I'm pretty sure everybody here applies to that. 9+ hours of STEM. So again, as I mentioned, it is geared towards STEM. So, I never took STEM classes, so I couldn't even apply even if I wanted to. And yeah, again, so it's a 5-week online sessions. And it's pretty neat, actually, now that I'm kind of helping coordinate the whole event. Hotel, airfare, and food is all included. So even if you're here, you could fly out to, at any one of the centers. I will be honest, I've heard that they try and choose kind of where you're closest to. So you probably go to JPL or to Armstrong. But going to any of the centers would be cool to do it. You're going to get briefing from scientists and engineers. So our chief scientist, Al Bowers, has spoke before. I know my mentor, Dave Berger, has spoke. Just Steve has spoke, good old Steve. So you'll hear briefings from them, which is neat because you hear about different projects. So a lot of you guys said space, but when I was at Armstrong, I didn't know that there was so much like flight and commercial airline things going on. So that's pretty neat to hear about too. We set up a tour of the NASA Center, so wherever you end up going, you'll get a tour of that. Each center has different things, so it's pretty neat. I'm sure it'd be neat to go to other centers and see what they have going on. And then you'll do an activity while you're there. So for us, I know we're going to do Mars rover building. So you'll actually use Lego, what are they, EV3 kits? I don't even know what that means, but they're like totally engineered like rovers that you'll build up, and they have missions that you'll do, and then we'll have a winner and so forth. And it's just a really fun event for students to kind of come out and actually like see NASA and what it's about and a little bit of what we do and hear from some of the people. And, you know, so you guys can apply, I think for spring, but the website is there on the bottom, and then the flyers are there too. So just kind of check that out. And then one more. There we go. I need engineers, I guess. I don't know.
So basically that's what we have to tell you guys. So you guys have copies of the flyers that talk about NCAS and pathways and OSSI. So if you guys have any questions, we're here to answer them for you guys.
Oh, sorry. So on the pathways, when it kind of breaks down, I know it's all different agencies, so you might not be able to answer this super well, but it does show that there's a different pay scale. Does that also mean that there's different jobs that maybe we can, or internships we can apply for because of the amount of credit work? Or is it just a free-for-all?
So I've actually, before I got the job, I'm like, well, I'm not going to graduate and then not have a job. So if you go on USA Jobs, it's literally like you're applying for a job. So it doesn't necessarily matter your background. I mean, you can type in anything in the keywords. We're obviously NASA, so we're going to mention NASA. But it can be anything from, I mean, park ranger to, you know, working with NASA or, you know, any of those things. So, you know, as far as coursework, it kind of just depends on what you're choosing, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it can be also clerical work. I mean, you go in there, you're going to find all kinds of different positions. So, I mean, it would be good if you go in there. You don't need to create an account to look at what's available, but if you want to apply to any of them, you do need to have an account. Thank you. Yes?
You talk about letters of recommendation. Do you have like generally an amount or a number of letters of recommendation that you recommend?
3 are good, but you only need 1 to submit the application, and the system will tell you. And once you go into the OSSI website and create your account, you request letters of recommendation through the system. You type in the name of the person and the email address that you want to write the letter for you, and that person will get an email. And it's good to let the person know, ask them if they can write a letter for you, and that they're going to get an email from this website so that they know it's not spam or junk or something like that. And then they'll fill in the letter and submit it through the system. So you'll never see the letter personally, but you know it's there, and the system will let you know that the letter has been submitted. And so you just need 1 to do the submission of the application.
And also, I'm guessing that these letters of recommendation are best. It's best to get them from STEM teachers.
Professor, counselor. I mean, it doesn't really tell you what's the best. It's just someone that can, you know, that you feel comfortable asking for one. I mean, if it comes from someone in the STEM field, that's better, but it's not a requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And what about recommendation letters from people you know who used to work at NASA?
You can do that too. I mean, they're not limited to just your professors and counselors. So it can be someone that can vouch for you personally, so not necessarily just on your schoolwork. So you can do a combination of everything.
Would that stand out more, do you think?
I wouldn't be able to tell you if that stands out more or not. It's just, I think it's more a formality than anything that they see that you have someone that will write a recommendation letter for you. Not that I'm putting down who writes it or anything like that, but I think they just want to make sure that you do have a letter, and it's not specific that it has to come from someone special, like a math teacher or a science teacher or something like that. Yes?
So you guys have like medical programs. I know you said you develop like UV and stuff. So you obviously are concerned about like life support and like you have like interns in that area.
Yeah, we do have interns that going to the medical area, at least there with us at Armstrong, we do have a physician on site that does all the physicals for the pilots, and he has to clear them before they fly. So he does have an intern that works with him. And at other centers like Johnson, you have to make sure that you have all the monitoring equipment for the astronauts and whatever they need in outer space. So they do have people looking into the medical stuff. And at Ames, I don't know if so much medical, but at least life support, they're looking at the systems to filtrate the water, because when you're out there and you go on, and we go on long missions like to Mars, we won't be able to carry all the water with us. So we have to filter urine and sweat and whatever other liquids are out there. So we're working on systems that will filter the water to the point that can be, safe to drink. So we have a little bit of everything in different locations, and they do fall into the medical area.
There's occupational health as well, I know. So.
Yes.
As someone who's interested in becoming an astronaut, what internships did you recommend, or which one of the programs available do you recommend to take?
Answer that one.
That's a good question. If you're interested in that, you have to look at what the astronauts are trying to do. Most, we're doing going to Mars. The shuttle is not around anymore, but originally during the shuttle program, we were looking for test pilots. And those test pilots were either current or retired military. So there will be some pilot capability to be able to do that. Now, the other crew members could be mission specialists. So if you have specialties in life science or science or just maybe some type of experimental type of things, or astronomy, for example, or any of those other types of fields. So there's, like, for example, on the International Space Station, you could be on there and they do all kinds of different experiments, from with animals to growing things to see how flames burn in a weightless atmosphere and all this other stuff. So it's not really specific to be an astronaut, but there may be a requirement or a need for specific types of experimentation or exploration or things of that nature. You might have an interest, and you can apply for it. So it's not, I have to be a pilot to apply to be an astronaut, or I have to be this to apply to be an astronaut. I applied for the astronaut program in 1981, so it kind of gives you an idea how old I am. But I didn't make it because I didn't have at least a master's degree. So I don't have my bachelor's at that time. So what they're looking for is people who are experimenters and looking for research and that type of stuff. So it's not really limited.
Yeah, and I noticed in the last application where over 17,000 people applied, including me. They're also looking for teachers now, so they've expanded the area of interest. So
Yeah.
you go in there, it keeps changing. We're doing things differently, and like Steve said before, if you were a test pilot, it was almost one of the easiest ways to get in there, because now they're looking at other areas, and I noticed in the last 20 weeks, teaching is now one of the
Yeah, and referring back to the medical question, it's we're going to send people to Mars. It's going to take them about 6 months to get there. So we're going to have to, somebody that has a medical background is probably going to have to go. So if you have some illness or sickness, and so there's a lot of challenges associated with things of that nature. Oh, yeah, can you imagine being in a box for 6 months? No, it made it, but nobody's alive. But it's just, it's kind of one of those things. So it's a very challenging thing to do. It's like, from water to food to oxygen to just normal sustaining of life, and then being in that environment for a period of time. When you get there, you're going to be there for a year. So, you have to worry about all the physiological and psychological elements too.
My interest is more in earth science and hydrogeology, glaciology. Do you think that'd be a good fit?
Oh, absolutely. Because obviously we're looking at Mars, and there has been some discovery that water does exist there, but also looking at the planet and understanding, its geology and its makeup too. So, absolutely.
And I know that Arizona, the University of Arizona, who owns Biosphere 2, they're working with NASA right now to see how plants will very big thing, but if they do manage to grow plants and market, that's a huge thing for us. We'll be able to grow our food.
So if you, yes, yeah.
We need a little bit of everything to get our mission going.
So if you watch The Martian, NASA did work with those people. Yeah, so it's NASA did work with them a little bit on that stuff. Yeah, so help advise. But of course, they use some creative license in some of the aspects, but otherwise it becomes boring. So, but yeah, those are some of the things. Uh-oh, we're getting kicked out. They're going, what are you people doing in there, right? So here, let me pass this on to you. But we do appreciate everybody here and your questions.
I think chemistry needs the room at 11. But let's thank our speakers. This was amazing. Will you be around for a few minutes?
You can be outside and you can come talk to us out there.
Okay, so now I'm outside if you still have questions. Thank you.